Welcome, Pewter Report readers, listeners, and viewers, to another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. All hell's breaking loose today. We suffered a serious injury at training camp. Ryan Jensen, Pro Bowl center, went down. We'll talk about that. The Pewter Report website went down. Holy crap, what the hell's happening? But one thing we do know is Julio Jones put on a show in his first practice with Tom Brady and company at the Advent Health Training Center. I'm Scott Reynolds, your host today. Alongside me are two famous Pewter reporters who were there watching and chronicling all the action. J.C. Allen and Casey Hudson join me today.
You.
Hey, how are we doing, guys?
It's just been a day. It's literally been a day. It started off really like good vibes. Julio Jones is out there, number 85. Pewter Report with the first picture of him in a Bucs uniform.
Oh, yeah.
And then from there, all hell broke loose.
Yeah, it really did.
As you said, the website went down. Jensen went down. But, I still
both
think
at the same time. We're still trying to figure out if the website crashed once you put the story up, JC. Not blaming you, not blaming Ryan Jensen, just blaming all the Pewter people out there that wanted to read the story. So we're trying to find out more about pewterreport.com. It'll be up sooner rather than later, but we can't say the same thing for Ryan Jensen. Casey, it looks bad. If you've seen the video, and I think we've all seen the video by now.
Yeah.
One of the fans in the stands caught the action. Aaron Stinney blocked Logan Hall, the rookie, into Jensen's left knee, and he dropped like that. And it looked bad. It looked really bad.
Screamed in pain.
Yeah. Oh, and somebody made a good point. Jensen is a beast. He's not the kind of guy. His ego isn't the type of ego where if he could walk off that field, that he wouldn't. So the fact that the cart had to come out there was one of the big symbols that was like, wow, this is pretty significant, because Big Red would have at least tried to limp off and, situate himself in the locker room, but he was down for a minute, and then when the cart came is when we were like, okay, this is for real.
Yeah. Anybody else, you would have been like, okay, cart comes out, but this is the dude who played recently. We heard the news that he played with a torn hip flexor on 4 days rest in Philadelphia, and then again in Philadelphia, got injured in that game, went to the blue tent, missed the defense for the defensive series, came back out and played, and then played again, hurt again next week against the Rams. I mean, this guy is as tough as nails, as tough as they come. And for him to hear him scream, to hear him curse like that and have to get out in the cart, not being able to put any pressure on it, it's really not a good sign for the Bucs and their Pro Bowl starting center, Ryan Jensen. And
you know what sucks? Like, I just got such good content of him and Hainsey really loading up on the baby powder. Like, I was so excited to get that posted later on in the day. Like, they were ready. The energy started off high, and then, Big Red goes down. So,
we talked about Hainsey gaining a little bit of necessary weight yesterday on the Pewter Report podcast, which was the best podcast we've ever done. We're going to try to top that today, and I'm feeling pretty good about it, despite the injury to Ryan Jensen. We're going to talk about Julio Jones. That was a huge bright spot for the Buccaneers today. So we're not going to be all doom and gloom on this podcast. But Hainsey, listen, all eyes are on him now. He is going to be stepping in for Jensen. And listen, when you have the knowledge in this offense that Ryan Jensen does, the Pro Bowl credentials, winning a Super Bowl, the rapport he has with Tom Brady, this is going to be a huge loss, even if it's a couple weeks, but certainly if it's going to be longer than that, if it is season ending. And they just signed him to a 3-year contract extension. And this was not his fault by any means. This is a friendly fire type incident. Some of us in the media room were kind of lamenting, well, they didn't have full pads on. I don't know what thigh pads really could have done to prevent this. Jensen typically wears knee braces. And I think even in this picture, which was in yesterday's practice, I think you can see maybe he's got the neoprene sleeves on. So, it's unfortunate. And maybe the offensive linemen, even when they're in jerseys and helmets, maybe they need to wear their knee braces on. It's a tough lesson to learn, but certainly a big loss for the Buccaneers if that's the case. You look at Robert Hainsey, third-round pick last year, played a couple snaps as center against Miami, played in the Atlanta Falcons game at the end of the season, and it's a big drop-off, right, from Ryan Jensen, who's got a lot of experience and as we mentioned, the Pro Bowl credentials, to a guy, JC, that is still developing behind the scenes.
Yeah, and part of, you saw the contract Jensen signed, and you had Hainsey under center for another, under contract for another 3 years. So those kind of overlapped each other. Would Hainsey get the opportunity? And now if this is a serious injury, we're still waiting. There's so many, swelling needs to go down, and we don't have a clear idea of what's going to happen with Jensen yet. But Hainsey's got to step up. And one of the things he's been doing in preparation of that is practicing with former Bucs center and former starter around the league and in Arians' offense in Arizona is AQ Shipley. He's been working with him all offseason, and Shipley went on the Pat McAfee show and said, listen, this is a guy who mentally is a 10-year guy. He knows what to do mentally. He knows how to make all the calls. He knows what to do. It's getting that body, which he's been transforming and picking up that lower half, making the switch from a more athletic position at right tackle to more, close quarters position at center / guard. So, with AQ's sign off on him, what I've seen from him personally the last 2 days with the second team at center, pretty flawless with his snaps, making some good calls. I'm not doom and gloom. I think Hainsey might be able to have the ability to step in there if Jensen can't go for the full season, half a season, whatever it's going to be. But again, we don't know anything yet because he plays on the offensive line until Monday, the earliest. And even then that's too soon because that's when pads come on. We need to see how much progress he's made when the pads come on, and even more so when they go against Miami and Tennessee and in game action. That's when we'll really know if he can handle the call to action that could be thrust upon him.
Right. Real quick, we'll get to you in a second, Casey. JC, Leo with a $4.99 super chat. We always appreciate the super chats. We drafted Jensen's replacement last year. However, if it's bad for Jensen, the Browns released their starting center in March. That would be
JC Tretter.
JC Tretter, yeah. JC Allen, JC Tretter. So is he a great fit for this scheme?
That's questionable.
He's got some experience. He's more of a zone guy. But I will say this. We've seen the Buccaneers run more zone than man. At least I have in the first 2 days of practice. We're not supposed to get too in-depth with what we're seeing in reporting, but they've been running a lot of stretch zone. So I'm just wondering if with JC Tretter, if he's more of a fit this year than he would be in years past. And they have some of the stretch zone plays in the playbook, and if that's what JC Tretter is best at, then they can pull it off.
Yeah, he's 6'4", 307 pounds. The only thing about JC Tretter is the amount of money he's made over the last few years. I mean, $9 million last year in the last deal with his second to last year of a deal with the Browns before they released him this year. Before that, $4 million, 5.5. Bucs only have $5.5 million to give him. So he would have to be at the age of 31. He'd have to be someone who's willing to come in on a discounted contract. It's not like a position player where you can be like, yeah, we'll just load it up with incentives. Yeah. There's not really many incentives for a center to make. Pancake blocks, maybe. I mean,
it's usually games played or games started, and then it's make the playoffs. Those are the things that you can do for linemen, especially if you make the Pro Bowl, you get X amount of dollars, etc. Casey, when you looked at this injury happen, one of the guys that was really high on Hainsey, at least in his press conference, was Tristan Wirfs. He was very complimentary about him, called him Bob. They're like best buddies on the team. And he has confidence that he could step in and get the job done. And if you remember, back in the spring when we had Ryan Jensen on after he signed that contract extension, I asked him about Robert Hainsey. And he loved the kid's cerebral ability to pick up the playbook. He's just a super smart player. And that's kind of what Tristan Wirfs said as well.
Yeah, 100%. That's what I was going to say. So in terms of everyone asking about Jensen's replacement, I think if we learned anything between Tristan Wirfs and, the GM, Jason Light, they have a lot of faith and a lot of hope in what Hainsey can do. I mean, first of all, I think he had a pretty solid training camp last year for one. Mm-hmm. And today, Jason Light said it in his presser. We drafted him for a reason, and we plan to develop him, basically, is what he alluded to. And, Wirfs was very high up on the fact of how smart he is and how that's one of his best buds on the team. But Tristan Wirfs is an all-pro. He's going to be he is one of the top offensive linemen in the league. He only has so much further to go in terms of his success. And so for him to say that he can learn something from Hainsey, not just because of their friendship, but because of his football IQ and his determination out there, this is a guy that wants to learn and thrive in this system. And it sounds like that's the route that they're going to take versus bringing somebody else in. Because the reality of it is, while everyone's being tight-lipped about whether they're going to add to other position groups, there's a good chance that they might do so there. And that's where money's probably going to go. And Hainsey's been groomed for an opportunity like this. I think there's a few plays last year training camp where Jensen couldn't go. It wasn't anything serious. And Hainsey stepped in and everybody was well impressed with him. So now is the time. And unfortunately, regardless of what we hear pertaining to Ryan Jensen's injury, if it's better that it happens now. August isn't for your first string guys to be putting in too many reps. Yes, they have to see where the rust has come off and where guys are at in the beginning. But after that, is where you really have to start evaluating the people that are going to step in, the next man mentality and all that stuff. So if there's going to be a time for Hainsey to really step up, make it count, and show that he could be the successor of Jensen, this is it.
Yeah. Right. And the thing too, JC, is Jason Light also mentioned, and maybe it was Todd Bowles too, that they've got some depth there at the center position with Nick Leverett, and he played some. Nick Leverett played all over in the preseason last year. Started a game at left tackle. Not that he started, but when he went in the game, it was at left tackle. He actually played center as well against the Titans, and then ultimately played against the Colts during the season at guard when Stinney was injured. He stepped in, and of course Stinney was in the game for Ali Marpet, who was out, I believe, with a concussion for that game. So Leverett played almost the entire Colts game, got his feet wet in his first NFL action, but he's got some experience at center. He really is that utility guy that can play all five positions in a pinch across the offensive line. That makes him valuable. The problem now is if something happens to Hainsey, now it's Nick Leverett and who? John Molchen? Do they have to bring in a veteran center to either compete with Hainsey or at least be the backup? Because good centers just, they don't, fall off the tree.
Right. It's one of the harder positions to actually nail and get. That's why there's so few really good centers in the league. Yeah, Ian Rappaport and Adam Schefter both, coming out with their reports pretty much saying that, they would be surprised if it's not a significant injury. They're hearing that it doesn't sound like it is good, that at the very least some extended period of time is going to be missed. But with Leverett and Hainsey, if they're both going to be competing for that starting center job, if everything's equal, I think you got to go with Hainsey because Leverett gives you that flexibility, right, to play multiple positions and be a versatile depth option and backup guy on the roster. So, you keep coming back to it. You look at the free agent centers, there's really not much out there. JC Treader is the biggest name. He's only about, I don't know what he's at right now, but he's same height, about 10 pounds less than what Ryan Jensen weighs. But you're looking at guys like Matt Paradis, who played with the Panthers for extended time, Trey Hopkins, who spent last year with the Cincinnati Bengals, maybe Billy Price, who was with.
So you're rattling off Bengals and Panthers offensive linemen. That's not a good sign, especially when those offensive lines sucked last year, and those guys are on the street still. So
so you have to hope that Hainsey's ready to take that step and fill in for an extended period of time, if not the entire season.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
But it knocks him out of the left guard position too, because they're going to need him to play center. Whether it's 6 weeks, 6 months, the whole year, they're going to need him to solely focus on that position and get that chemistry going with Tom Brady, because he doesn't have that. He hasn't been snapping him. He's been snapping at Gabbert and Trask. So, take him out of the left guard competition. Most likely take Nick Leverett out of the left guard competition because he's going to get all the number 2 reps most likely at center. So now it's down to Stinney and Gadecki to really who's going to become that guy at starting guard. It's interesting.
Well,
hear me out. Fred Johnson goes to center.
Fred Johnson. Fred Johnson's like 6'8". I mean, I don't know Brady could see over him to throw the ball. I mean, that can be a little bit of an issue. You know, I mean, I remember John Wade, former Bucs center, was 6'6" down here in Tampa, and you know, it was difficult for Brian Greasy, who was, I think, 6'1", 6'2", to see over him. So, you know, you don't need a run to play center. You want a bigger guy, but you don't want a real tall guy. And Fred Johnson, as Tristan works,
he just has to get low in the squad,
you know, on the team. So I like Fred Johnson, though. I'm fine with that. I'm just not sure center's his spot. Leo with the super chat, $1.99. Thank you for the super chats, people. It's super chat season. So if you have questions, we have a lot of people in the chat. It's football season. You'll catch our attention and you'll get your comment or question read for sure by giving us a super chats. We appreciate that. If Brady wants a veteran, they will sign a veteran. And JC and Casey, when Jason Light was talking to the media today, he was not shy or bashful about using Tom Brady as a recruiting tool and collaborating on that. And JC, you brought up an interesting question that Jason dodged the first time, and you asked it again.
Right.
Jason has gone to Brady and said, what do you think about these players? Can you help us get them into the fold? These are some guys we want to sign. But I think that works the other way too. I think it's a two-way street. I think Brady's gone to Jason Light and said, hey, I want this guy on the team.
Sure.
You give me the blessing to give this guy a call and sign him.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, that might be the case. You know, there's trade scenarios too that could come into play. They're going to have to, if they don't feel comfortable with Hainsey, which I don't necessarily think they don't, they're going to have to turn over a rock. And you know, all it takes is a call from Brady and maybe to JC Tretter to say, hey, I need you out here. And we don't have a lot of cap space left, but you want to win a ring?
Yeah, that's right.
Because we're a center away now.
Right now, so.
Yep. Well, here's one thing we do know.
Rock in a hard place, kind of, because one pattern that they have going on is they really do need to strongly consider grooming the next up for this team. Like, we have a lot of guys that are on 1-year contract. They're going to be hanging up their cleats when this season's done, and that's going to put them in a bit of a hole. The top of this year, all of us were having massive heart attacks between the retirement of Tom Brady, Gronk sitting on the fence, just so many unknowns and nobody to step in and fill those shoes. So they do have to seriously consider that. In the same sense, there's so many veterans that are waiting and have been waiting their entire career to collect that ring. And I think one of you guys asked that today, like about, you know, people like is there a pattern here for the players that you guys are signing that have always been close, but not close enough? So of course they're hungry to get it done, but you got to pick one or the other at this point.
Yeah. Emily brings up a good point. Jensen's a tough cookie. Unless a season-ending injury, he'll be back. There is nobody tougher, maybe in the building, than Ryan Jensen. I mean, he's tough as nails. But, I mean, if you're talking an ACL or something like that, I mean, he's done for the year. So we shall see. Folks, I would be done. I would be cooked today myself if I didn't have not just 1 Celsius, but 2 Celsius. It's training camp time. Folks, it's not like Celsius doesn't work. It's just been getting up like at 4:30, and I had my tropical vibe today because I wanted something fruity this morning. And then guys, I've been telling you, my afternoon go-to is this cola flavor. Right, cola flavored Celsius. Okay, so I'm not getting too fruity. And Celsius, they've got the fruit flavors. Even if you don't like orange, which is my favorite, they have a ton of fruit flavors. And they all taste exactly like they're supposed to. Peach Vibe, which I'm going to be rocking tomorrow morning, it tastes like Peach Vibe. It tastes like peach. The wild berry tastes like a bunch of berries in your mouth. The grape flavor tastes like grape. Watermelon is fantastic flavor. There's so many different flavors to choose from. Celsius is the best tasting energy drink, but it's also the best energy drink for you. Why? Because it's got 7 vitamins. It's got the essential functional energy that you need to power your active daily lives. And folks, there's no sugar. There's no preservatives. So that means you get all the energy with no sugar crash. So whether it's some of the non-fruity flavors like the cola or say the cucumber lime, which is also a good change up. I think, Casey, you like the cucumber lime.
Yeah.
Or it's the new Arctic vibe or the tropical vibe and the peach vibe. Those are the holdover flavors. Make Celsius a part of your life when it comes to getting the energy that you need, whether it's in the morning, whether it's in the afternoon. We need a little pick-me-up for work or before your workout. Where can you find Celsius? Well, click on Celsius.com, go to the store locator, type in your address, and you'll find out all the different stores near you that carry Celsius, or go to Amazon. You can buy them in bulk there. You can buy them by the case. You can subscribe and save. You save money that way, and they ship them right to your door. And you can also get those regularly delivered. So if you need Celsius on a weekly basis, every other week, whatever, Amazon will ship it right to you.
Right. Shout out to James Canada out here, former Bucs defensive lineman in the chat, guys.
What's
Shout
that?
Out, James Canada, former
Bucs.
Bucs.
James Canada? Hell yeah.
Former Bucs defensive lineman in the chat, hanging out.
I love it.
Hey,
Number 98, if I recall. Sometimes I forget things, but I think he was number 98. So that's really cool.
Memories outstanding.
So one of the things that was cool today, we don't want to be too doom and gloom. We don't know exactly what's happening with Ryan Jensen, but we do know what happened today with Julio Jones. He wore number 85, which is not a great number for him. I think he's waiting until.
Wait. He's wearing number 85. Mr. Scott Reynolds of Pewter Report broke the news that he was wearing number 85. Let's not be too modest here, all right?
Not like a 5:45 a.m. tweet.
I was like, yeah.
It's just a jersey number, folks. I think
Scott has a key to the building at this point.
Highly anticipated jersey number. People were really waiting to hear what number he was going to wear.
Well, I was old enough to remember Courtney Hawkins wearing number 85, and then Riedel Anthony wore number 85. So there's been a couple Buccaneers that have rocked 85, but nobody rocks 85 like Julio Jones. And boy, Casey, we talked about how Tom Brady came out guns a-blazing yesterday, looking razor sharp on his first day of training camp practice. This was Julio Jones's first day, second day for the team. And, man, he just was put on a clinic. I didn't see him drop a pass, and he was running some amazing routes. I was really happy with what I saw from Julio Jones.
Oh my gosh, yes. And when we, as media was starting to find their spots on the field and stuff this morning, you saw that he was out there, one of the first guys out there with the wide receiver coach, and you could see the conversation of them, in-depthly talking about routes and him asking a lot of questions, being super inquisitive. And then he just went out there and put on a show. He executed. And I think something that I tweeted out earlier too was for this to be day one for Julio Jones, day two at training camp for Tom Brady, even though we know Tom Brady is an all-pro,
right?
They had an instinctual chemistry from the jump. And that was great to see because there was plays and there was moments where you would think these guys have played together before on a couple different occasions. So it looked very easy for them. The chemistry already looked established. And you're right. I didn't see a drop pass all day. There were certain plays where he was in, tight coverage or a double man and he was still just doing so well. So, And what was funny is that in the pressers after, when everybody, of course, asked each person from Wirfs to Shaq Barrett to Todd Bowles, how did Julio Jones look? With a giggle, everybody opens up and says, well, he can still run and he can still catch. So just kind of shutting down everybody who thinks that Julio Jones is on his last leg. And then, I would be remiss to not circle back to yesterday when I said we have an opportunity to see Julio Jones from 5-6 years ago as long as he's healthy, maybe on that TB12.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And the thing, too, is Todd Bowles is really happy. It's kind of funny because when you look at this depth chart, and we talked about it yesterday, JC, I think some of these guys are starting to feel the heat. And I think that one of the guys that really stood out to me today in a not so great fashion was Tyler Johnson. I saw him drop a couple passes, dropped a touchdown from Blaine Gabbert. And if you're Tyler Johnson, now there's another big-bodied receiver, right? 6'3", 220. He's even bigger than Tyler Johnson. And Julio is faster than Tyler Johnson. So right now I'm looking at Tyler Johnson, and he doesn't really bring anything special to the table because, again, his calling card was he was another big-bodied guy. Now they got another big-bodied guy in Julio Jones to pair with a bigger guy like a Chris Godwin who plays slot, and then another bigger guy who's fast, and Brashad Perryman. So if you're Tyler Johnson, you got to pretty much catch everything in practice, do you not?
Yeah, right. And especially one of those was on air too. I mean, it wasn't even covered. So like, Julio Jones came out guns up blazing today. Not only was he sharp in on air and red zone drill work, pairing with Tom Brady, but once it came down to actually getting out there, and he doesn't know the install, he doesn't really know the scheme.
Right.
I saw someone in the chat mention something I was going to say. Cyril Grayson was off to the side telling him what routes to run and stuff like that.
This is day 2. The Cyril Grayson's looked really good.
Yes,
really good.
Yes. Jones went 4 for 4 today on the. He was out there for 4 targeted on 4 catches, caught all 4 balls. 2 of them were touchdowns. One was a diving touchdown in the end zone, and the other one was a contested catch over Kyler McMichael, who's like a 6th cornerback, just high pointed the ball and caught it down.
Oh, the fans, and JC on that particular play, Julio stumbled.
Yeah,
he literally stumbled. I thought he was going to fall over. He regrouped, and the ball was in the air. He made a crazy adjustment over McMichael to catch it. But I thought that Julio was going to just slip and fall. I mean, he stumbled out of his break. That gave McMichael plenty of time to cover him. It's just when you're 6'3", 220, and you're Julio Jones, you're never really covered. Right.
And it was, as Casey mentioned it too. It was funny to see all the media could just kind of transfer over to some of them were over here, some of them was over. They all kind of came to the end zone when Julio was there. Anytime he touched the ball, you couldn't. There was a deafening roar. Fans are already 100% behind him, but his presence, as you said, Tyler Johnson's on notice, and so is Scotty Miller, who had another struggling day today. Yeah. And at least Scotty's back there returning punts. I don't see how Tyler Johnson makes this team now that they've got a big body possession guy that can be on the outside. Because I think he was out of position last year trying to replace Godwin. Who can do that? Nobody. So he's.
And you know what? Jalen Darden had another good day, I thought.
He did.
He really did.
Yeah.
I think Cyril Grayson and Jalen Darden have been guys that have been really consistent from being holdovers from a year ago.
Wait, did Casey just say yes to Jalen Darden having a good day? Can we focus on that real quick? Did you just agree to Jalen Darden's good day, Casey?
Jalen Darden had a good day. Now, don't hold me to it, because the minute you put pads on this guy, who knows what's going to happen. So there's a lot of guys who have, specifically in my notebook, it's like wait for pads, because it's just could be a game changer. But yes, Jalen Darden looks good. He's doing well. He did well last training camp, and then who knows what happened. So don't hold me to that too tightly. But Cyril Grayson is looking really good.
Yeah.
He could be a dark horse this season, not because he didn't, show up last season. I think he kind of showed up a bit late, and then there was the injury, but we've all talked about this, almost at full nauseam now, but he's holding up his end, and he looks good and doing really well. And Russell Gage, guys, this receiver room, this is going to be really tough. 2 guys are for sure about to lose their job, unfortunately. And you both have said it, Tyler Johnson and Scotty Miller. They look scared out there. They look nervous. They look like they're overthinking every step.
They're feeling the heat. They're feeling the pressure for sure. Common sensei with some common sense. I mean, again, we're reporting the news. We're reporting who looked good today. But Common Sensei is bringing the common sense. Pads. Yes. Right. There have been plenty of people that in my almost 3 decades of covering the Buccaneers, they look great in OTAs. They look great when the pads are off in training camp. And when the pads come on, it's a different story. And we're going to report what happened today, and we're going to see if it changes next week, because the pads do come on Monday.
Right. Yeah, I think after 2 days – so 2 days, my wide receiver depth chart after the big 4. I think I've got Cyril Grayson making it, Brashad Perriman making it. I think it's going to be either Jalen Darden or Devin Tompkins. His cuts are so smooth, and he gets in and out of his breaks so quickly. He's made some pretty good plays, some diving plays, some sideline. He almost had that one catch earlier. Was it today or yesterday? I don't remember. But he high pointed on a bigger wide receiver out of bounds, converted his body around and just barely missed the catch, but he's been impressive so far. Plus, he's working on punt returns as well, because we know special teams is going to be the way to make this roster if you're going to be that 5, 6, 7 guy. But those are the guys who have stood out to me. I haven't really seen much from many of the rookies. Vincent Smith had a good day today.
Yes.
He did.
Yes, he did.
what's
a couple of passes from Trask, which
Yeah.
a lot of people on the podcast know that I'm not the biggest Trask fan, but he looked good. But him and Smith were connecting. It's not just about the jersey he wore in college.
I want to get back to a point here that Tyson LeClaire brought up. David Andrews incoming. JC, what are your thoughts on Tom Brady reuniting with the Patriots center?
It would definitely be a fit. It would definitely work. I'm not sure if that's a viable option. I think he just re-signed with them this season.
Yeah.
I'm trying to look up what the cap hit is on him. I'll get back to you on that in a minute. But definitely as a player, for sure. I mean, he is a heck of a player.
I think that Bill Belichick has given enough to Jason right? With the trade for Rob Gronkowski and Shaq Mason. Yeah. I don't know if he wants to give Jason any more good players.
Right.
I doubt it. It'd be painful for him to do so.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to invest in a center. Well, unless he's out for the season, then maybe. But
if anything, you're looking at potentially a backup center, one of those guys I mentioned, not for any purpose of really competition, but more of a veteran presence. Like Matt Paradis, I don't want to see him on the field, but he's 33. He's seen pretty much everything that you can see out on the field. To bring him in and just kind of give him that little veteran push per se, knowing that he's not really a plausible option maybe on the practice squad or something, but to give him that push and say, hey, when I'm out here, this is what I see. Not that Jensen hasn't done it, but to have in real time during camp be like, this is what I see here. I think that would be a potential option. Or maybe they just bring back AQ Shipley. Who knows?
Well, he's got a career-ending neck injury, so I don't think that's going to happen. But I like your thinking there. We also like likes. If you have the wherewithal to do so, and I think everybody does. All you have to do is just use your little finger and slide the cursor over and hit like on your page there or on your YouTube. Find us on YouTube at Pewter Report TV. That's our YouTube channel. Please subscribe. We're closing in on 9,000 subscribers. That's awesome, Pewter people. We love you guys. Thank you so much. Every single video we do, every piece of content that we put up on our YouTube channel, please hit the like button. What that does is that helps our YouTube algorithms, gets us in front of more awesome Pewter people like you, so we can grow and get in front of more Bucs fans and entertain and inform them with everything Pewter Report has to offer. So
the faster we get to 10K, the faster that our page can continue to grow. We can monetize and be able to bring you better content, better things, better coverage. So please tell your friends, tell your mom, even if they don't want to watch it, just tell them to like it and subscribe.
Yeah, like and subscribe. That's we want you to watch it, but
we do.
Just hit like and subscribe for sure. One thing that we do want to do is tell you about MyBookie. Folks, if you are interested in doing some gaming, MyBookie is the place to go. I've used MyBookie personally for years, and when I mean years, I mean I think this is year 4 or 5 that I've been with MyBookie. So MyBookie, it's a fantastic community for you to join, and the great thing is you can sign up now, and they're going to give you half of your first initial deposit back to you in the form of a signing bonus. So it's a great way to fight inflation and get the best of your money back. You can subscribe to MyBookie and join up there, and let's say you deposit $2,000, they're going to give you up to $1,000 as your bonus. So if you deposit $200, let's say you don't be that much of a baller and you want to put $200 in your account to start off with, they'll give you $100. So it's free house money. And all you got to do is go to mybookie.ag and subscribe using the promo code Pewter. And when you sign up with that promo code Pewter, they're going to give you half of your deposit right back into your account, so you can bet on things like Major League Baseball right now, NFL football, which is nearing 5 weeks now. 5 weeks from football.
Get live 45 days.
45 days.
Yeah. Sooner or later, it's going to be hockey season again, right? We're hockey fans. NBA. There's UFC fights every weekend.
Everything.
Yeah. So if you want to get into the game, the place to go for that is MyBookie. Bet with MyBookie. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie. And again, use that promo code Pewter when you sign up, and they're going to give you some free money. Who doesn't like free money, folks?
Right. And this is Matt's area expertise, but I'm going to give you guys a little betting tip right now. While you're watching the podcast, go sign up for MyBookie right now and put some money on week 1 for the Bucs to win, because 20 minutes ago, news just broke that Michael Gallup will not be ready to play week 1. Another weapon that won't be ready to play for the Cowboys when they face the Bucs. Go put some money on that. Thank me later when the Bucs win and you cover and you win some extra money from that tip.
Yep.
I can't give a tip for that.
Listen, we just got news that Anastasia has just subscribed. This podcast is fire. We appreciate that. That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We got a little applause there. We love you too, Damien. So a question here about how does that Tom Brady arm look? Casey, you've seen Tom Brady sling it in practice over the last 2 days here. He does not look like he's approaching his 45th birthday anytime soon.
No, that birthday, we already know that this guy has Benjamin Button disease. But aside from the fact that, people have been waiting for the fall off, the decline, the arm strength just wither away, it hasn't happened. He's not skipped a beat. He hasn't missed a step. He looks as strong as ever. So whatever he's doing, whatever that TB12 method is, it's working for him. But all jokes aside, we know that everybody says it. Tom Brady is a very routine, deliberate, meticulous guy. So whatever it takes for him to step into that pocket and make sure that he's going to be efficient and effective, he's already done so. And so far, so good. So nothing to worry about on Tom Brady's end, unless he's really, having to deal with another center and stuff. But he's going to groom him up well. That's what
he is. He knows the offense by now. It's not like this is his first year in Tampa. First year in Tampa, he won the Super Bowl. Second year, was a Pro Bowl. Almost could have won the NFL MVP. You're right, JC.
Should have.
So Tom Brady's not in position where he was in 2020, where he was leaning on Ryan Jensen. Whoever this new center is, if it is Robert Hainsey, Brady is certainly going to help him get up to speed as quickly as possible.
I'll say flowers too to Max Kellerman. 6 years today, Max Kellerman said Brady was falling off a cliff.
That's right.
What? Brady's not falling off a cliff. He won a Super Bowl in Tampa Bay the first year. Should have been an MVP. Probably would have went to the Super Bowl again if there wasn't a litany of injuries. You can't predict and look back. And this year, even with the Ryan Jensen, this team is locked and loaded and ready to compete for another one. So take that, Max Kellerman, with your falling off a cliff 6 years ago.
It's just not a steep cliff. Maybe he mistook it for an incline.
I'll tell you one thing too.
Exactly. All right, so
I was going to say, I used to go to Pat's training camp all the time when I was up north and everything like that. The last 3 seasons, I've seen more zip, more velocity, more accurate throws, and we were talking about it today too. The trajectory of his throws, the height of them. Yeah. I don't know what to say.
Still has an incredible arc on the deep ball, and he pushes the ball down the field like no other. I mean, we haven't seen any drop off yet. Let's put it that way.
Unfathomable what he's doing at 45.
Football fan asks, by the way, is there a reason why SMB is playing in the outside? Yes, I'm going to be writing about this extensively in SR's Fab 5 tomorrow. I will say this: Sean Murphy Bunting is not playing slot corner. We broke that news yesterday. We kind of hinted at it prior to camp, if you've been reading the PewterReport.com stories. And he is going to be given a shot at outside corner. I think the SMB and the slot experiment is over. And if you go back and look, and this not just Todd Bowles saying this, Bowles said this on the record, but other coaches will tell you that it wasn't just that all-out blitz that was a fatal blow to Tampa Bay in that Rams game, where Cooper Kupp got the best of Antoine Winfield, who was late coming over, late getting the call, and Ndamukong Suh couldn't get to Matthew Stafford in time, and we know what happened 44 yards later. Matt Gay kicks the game-winning field goal, and it's heartbreak central. But Sean Murphy Bunting, the play before, slipped and fell in the slot while covering Cooper Kupp. Mike Edwards couldn't come over to make the tackle. Cooper Kupp got out of bounds. That was a key play because it saves some time for the Rams. So I think the experiment with Sean Murphy Bunting in the slot is over now. So who's playing in the slot? Antoine Winfield has been playing slot corner almost exclusively with the first team, and we saw him play some man coverage today and get beat a little bit. Now he did have an interception of Tom Brady, so he did have a highlight play there. But I think they're giving Antoine Winfield a look to see if he can be a slot corner for this team, because it's a position that gets targeted a lot, and he's a dynamic player in the middle of the field. We saw him high point and outleap Michael Pittman Jr. for a huge interception. And we've also seen him cover Jared Cook in that Saints playoff game back in 2020 in the slot and force a huge fumble. So Winfield can make some plays, and I think what they're taking a look right now is can SMB play outside? And he is starting ahead of Jamel Dean. That's a little noteworthy. I just think they're trying to give him a look with the starters to say, A, are you a starting caliber player? B, how are you faring as an outside corner? And then C, how's Antoine Winfield doing in the slot? Because we've seen a lot of plays where they've got Logan Ryan at the free safety spot, Mike Edwards playing the other safety, and then you've got Winfield in the slot.
Yeah. Right, it's all about getting your best guys out there. And if you have the opportunity to put Antoine Winfield out there, Mike Edwards back in the free safety, either Keanu Neal or Logan Ryan or some combination of that ilk on the field, why not test it out? That's what training camp is for, to see what you can do. That's why last season you had Ross Cockrell playing as a safety, cross training there. This is the time where you try out different things, techniques, and see what sticks, and then you go from there. But speaking of Ross Cockrell, he's looked terrible the last 2 days.
Yeah. I don't think Ross Cockrell is going to be making the team. Is Logan Ryan too slow to play in the slot? I don't think that's the case. I just think they like him playing center field. He almost had an interception today. They like him back there seeing the field. And Mike Edwards also sees some time at the free safety spot too. So what we're seeing out there right now, it may not be what we're going to see in week one, because Todd Bowles has got to try some different combinations, try some players out. Training camp is used for two things: to get ready to play the Cowboys in week one, but also to tinker and experiment with different lineups and see who plays well with others and who plays well in certain spots, Casey.
Yeah, absolutely. And no, I don't think Logan Ryan is a slow thing at all. I think a very specific role in mind for him, as you mentioned. We've kind of seen a little consistency between yesterday and today of where he's going to be. But Antoine Winfield Jr., I mean, he's a gritty guy. I think if you're going to ask anybody to rise to the task of learning something and being able to do it well, he's a great guy to take an opportunity and give him the time to have that opportunity with. So not really surprised by the move, if you will. And we knew that this defense was going to have an ability to be a little bit more flexible and throw some tricks out there. So This is the time to try it out, see how it ends out, and go from there.
Right. Yeah, I'm seeing in the chat, and listen, I know Ryan Jensen is a beloved player, and it sucks when you have a friendly fire injury, right? I've seen this a couple times in my career. Trent Dilfer was vilified for quote unquote getting Horace Copeland, the Bucs wide receiver, hurt in a preseason game because Dilfer's pass was underthrown. Horace Copeland had to slow down for it. It was in a preseason game. And when he slowed down to make the catch, all of a sudden he got his knee crumpled up on and tore his ACL. He was out for the year. And Horace Copeland was a promising young receiver. I want to say this was maybe 1996 or 97. It was 97, the 97 preseason maybe. And he got blamed for it. And it's not like Trent Dilfer wanted it to happen. It was just. Sometimes shit happens, right? I mean, that's just life, and that's football too. And I don't want to sit there and say this was Aaron Stinney's fault or this was Logan Hall's fault. Sometimes it just happens. And I remember too, Davin Joseph was a Pro Bowl left guard, or I should say right guard for the Buccaneers, and he got his knee taken out in a preseason game when Donald Penn, blocked and threw a guy into his knee. It happens along the offensive line.
I mean, it happened to Jensen last year. His own teammate rolled over his ankle. And then the Eagles game. Yeah.
Tristan Wirfs, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely happens.
So, it sucks when it's friendly fire, but I mean, you can't blame these guys because they don't want it to happen. I mean, Steve and Jensen, they love each other. I mean, they're they won a Super Bowl lined up to each other. It's not fair to sit there and say that this has happened. This is just a circumstantial thing that happens, and it's football. Sometimes you get friendly fire, and sometimes too. We've seen it. I mean, look at Teddy Bridgewater. He was up there in Minnesota, literally just rolling out, and his knee buckled, right, and had a catastrophic knee injury. Nobody even touched him. So was it the groundskeeper's fault because the grass was too high? I mean, I'm just saying, don't blame the Buccaneers for these types of injuries. If you want to blame the Saints for Chris Godwin's knee injury, that's fine. That's allowed. That's totally legal.
That's real.
But don't blame the Buccaneers for this because it's unfortunate.
Right. And Logan, you can't blame Logan Hall too. I've seen people, is it Stinnie's fault? Is it Hall's fault? Hall's a rookie, and he's going out there, and he's got to give 100% effort on every single play to show something to these coaches to try to crack this rotational lineup and to show them that he's absorbing things. It's a freak accident. Things happen. We don't have official word out. Let's hope for the best. Hopefully it's maybe, a partial tear or something. I don't know. I'm not even going to speculate, but hopefully it's not a season ender. If it is, life moves on. Hainsey will step up. Yeah. And they'll dedicate this season to Ryan Jensen and hopefully win the whole thing. Who knows? I don't know.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Randall asked a good question here. Anybody that is new having a tough time with the heat? No, I haven't seen anybody really struggle with the heat at all. What's that?
Our intern.
Yeah, our intern, Sly.
I said just media. I didn't call our intern now. Yeah.
Yeah. We love Sly. He's been a fantastic intern. That's solid. His name, Sly.
Shout out, Sly.
And he's done a great job. He asked a bunch of questions.
Circling back to the defensive conversation for a second, I don't know if anybody was as impressed or high on Zion McCollum today as I was, but he was hustling. This is a kid that I think is going to get to see the field this season. I think that he's a workhorse. I think that he's going to be very much hyper focused on learning the plays and being able to get acclimated. And getting acclimated on defense is different than offense. But he was zipping around. He almost had an interception. So hopefully that's coming soon.
They're very high on Zion McCollum. It's only a matter of time before this guy gets on the field in live action. And he's not going to be taking Carlton Davis's job, although Zion is pretty much practicing at that left cornerback spot. But when you get SMB and Jamel Dean on the right side, and Dean has looked okay. This is a contract year for both Sean Murphy Bunting and Jamel Dean, and we'll see if I haven't seen anything good or bad from Jamel Dean yet. And I think that if you're in a contract year, you want to show out, and we'll see if Jamel Dean can go out there and and step up and stay cold to that right starting cornerback job, or is Zion McCollum going to press him, or is Sean Murphy Bunting going to rise up and take that job? It's going to be an interesting battle between those three corners. It's all going to be for one outside spot, I think, because I think that they're looking at Antoine Winfield or Logan Ryan or maybe even Mike Edwards inside in the slot. It just seems like that's the direction that they went last year. At the end, remember, when Sean Murphy Bunting was out, they tried Russ Cockrell. Ross didn't last long there. Then they went to Mike Edwards in the slot. Winfield played some of the slot. And when you're in that slot position, that's where Todd Bowles likes to blitz too.
Right.
And one of the best blitzing guys on this team.
Right. I think it's, now people are asking how Keanu Neal looks too. And the last three guys are asked about, Neal, Dean, and Zion McCollum, all had great pass breakups today.
It is. Yes.
So, I mean, they're showing out. They're out there and performing all of the second team unit. but they're all performing well. Zion McCollum also had a really tight coverage. The ball was caught on him, but he really tight coverage, and it's a growing process for him. I think all three of those guys are going to see plenty of snaps on the field and continue to grow. It's really encouraging for this defensive secondary that was hit so hard last year, that so far early in camp, stress early with no pads on in camp, that it's looking like the depth that the Bucs have built is looking pretty good, just in case anything happens to them.
And I'll add this, to think about how good these guys look without pads coming on, not to just stay high on the Zion McCollum, but I think that he's going to be somebody where you're going to see that contact doesn't affect him when the pads come on. Like some of those close calls that he had today, or some of those, if he just would have pushed that extra oomph, he could have had an interception or knocked the ball down. I think some of that might be reservation because of contact. These guys are in gym shirts and shorts, and some of them are choosing to wear the new fuzzy helmets, and some of them are choosing not to. So when the pads come on, I think we're going to see Zion even take it to a whole nother level. And Neil, as well as Logan, were both on special teams for field goals today.
Right. Yep. D. Delaney said too about Zion. He's like, this kid's going to be, when we had him on the Pewter Report podcast, if you missed it, go back and check. It was last week. But he even said Zion McCollum, he's going to be a player. He's going to be a real player. Maybe not this year, but next year, watch out. True.
He really is. They really like him. So TB12 Goat Man wants to talk about JTS.
I need to talk about today.
I mean, he's putting on a show, man. He's probably been the one guy that we haven't talked about enough. Yeah. He looks like he's going to be having a hell of a year. And Tristan Wirfs and Shaq Barrett were the two guys that we got to talk to today. Oh, and by the way, Tristan Wirfs goes up against Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, and Shaq Barrett is in the room with Joe Tryon-Shoyinka and playing opposite him in the starting lineup. So what two better players to talk about, JTS, Casey, than those two? What did they have to say today?
Oh, my favorite was Tristan Wirfs opening up saying, this kid is just a beast. He's so athletic. He's got this twitch. There's just so many things about him that just make him an unbeatable player. And then going over to Shaq Barrett's comments about JTS was the fact that Barrett said JTS was ready last year. He just didn't get the reps that he deserved. And that's straight out of the mouth of a guy who's probably going to be a leader, potentially even a captain on this team. So JTS has been ready, according to every person that you would speak to out there. And now they're just ready to unleash him. But for a guy who gets to go up against him in practice, Tristan Wirfs is solid. We know this. We know how great he is. But
Shaq said Tristan Wirfs was the toughest right tackle he's ever been against in the league.
Right. So for that to be said, and then and for Wirfs to go into such detail about what he brings to the table, his speed, his athleticism, his strength, you don't always get the better of being super strong, being twitchy, being fast, and having good hands. He has everything. So I think they're just ready to unleash the beast.
And it translated to the field today because he was pivotal on Antoine Winfield Jr.'s interception to start on Tom Brady's first pass of the game, applying pressure. And then he also had another would-be sack, if they called it, coverage sack, if we could sack again. So, I mean, he's been an absolute beast out there, even in 2 days.
Yeah. And JC, you asked a question that was always in the top of my mind, and I've asked it before, and you know that this is one of my hot buttons, right? Shaq Barrett, back in 2019, I've done the research, out of the 19.5 sacks that he got, 13 of those, which that's a Pro Bowl number by itself. 13 sacks in the season, you're going to the Pro Bowl. He had 19.5. 13 of those came on the right side against left tackles. And out of the 6 forced fumbles he had back in 2019, which was the year he led the league in sacks and went to his first Pro Bowl, out of the 6 forced fumbles, 5 of them came from the right side, right? Those strip sacks from the quarterback's blind side. And, we've talked about it before. If you missed it, I'll give you the real quick 10-second story. When JPP was out with that neck injury, Carl Nassib was the left outside linebacker. Shaq was the right in 2019. Shaq was doing all that damage. JPP comes back and says, I like to play on the right side. JPP is an alpha personality. Shaq Barrett is not. Shaq Barrett is a people pleaser. And when JPP said, I want to rush from the right side, Shaq was like, okay. And he went to the left side, where he still was effective. I mean, but not as effective. And we saw JPP take a huge amount of rushes from the right side in 2020, and that led to a Pro Bowl season for JPP. But Shaq went from 18 or 19 and a half sacks down to 8 and did not make the Pro Bowl. And then last year was more 50-50. And part of that was because of JPP missing so much time with his shoulder injury. And lo and behold, what happens? Shaq, more sacks on the right side, gets to 10 sacks on the season and makes a Pro Bowl. And yeah, we've seen him play both sides, but I think you're going to see Shaq play more on the right. And JC, he talked about it today. He said that's more of his favorite side, right?
Yeah, his quote was great. You know, I asked him, he's like, I think because the quarterbacks really can't see you coming from that side, but I feel confident, comfortable on both sides. We'll switch a little bit more this year, so we switch it up on defense. I mean, keep offenses guessing, so we aren't doing it as a one-trick pony. I mean, you can't argue with the numbers. He said with like a huge smile. He's like, can't argue with the numbers, but I do like both sides. Maybe the right side a little bit more because the quarterback.
Maybe the right side a little bit more. Okay, Jack. Whatever.
You know you like it a lot more. All right?
When he said the numbers don't lie, he was just giving you everything right there. Basically, like, put me right.
I love the way he talks too. His cadence is phenomenal.
I know. Shaq's one of my favorites.
My
days from the sidelines are over. I've retired from my defensive coordinator duties at the South Pasco Predators football team. I'm done. But what I will say is plenty of people at One Buccaneer Place, including the players, read Pewter Report, and they know what's up. And when we have good stats out there, they know it, they read it. And
that's in the man, though. Don't let him fool you. He's already been offered defensive coordinator spots this year. People want you. People want Scott back on the sidelines.
Yeah. Nope, retired. Not doing it.
Start a petition.
Nope, I'm fine talking to you, Pewter people, and we're just trying to get pewterreport.com back up. We've had two Pro Bowl entities go down today, unfortunately, with Ryan Jensen, and then our website. We're trying to get it back up. But and when we do, we'll have a slew of stories already written. We're going to load them up, and we'll hit the ground running. We've got a couple more minutes left, and I don't have any clever segue into the Underdog Fantasy promo, but I'm just going to go right into the Underdog Fantasy promo. Folks, if you're looking for the best place to do fantasy, there's no better place than Underdog Fantasy. It's in their name. I mean, Underdog Fantasy. And they're drafting right now for the Best Ball Mania 3. And what I love about Underdog Fantasy, I don't have time with me covering football just about 24/7, 7 days a week during football season to play fantasy football the traditional way with the commissioner and making the trades and getting your lineups in. I mean, I'm working covering the Buccaneers, people. I don't have time to do the week-to-week fantasy football stuff, but it is fun. And I did it for the first time last year. I did several drafts, and in August, we're going to have a lot of Pewter Report drafts. So we did it last year. I played against a lot of you awesome Pewter people, you Buccaneer fans out there. We're going to do it again. We'll probably start talking about it next week, and we're going to really use the month of August to ramp up. But right now, you can go draft your teams. Matter of fact, the second place winner last year drafted his team in June for the Best Ball Mania. So this is the time, people, to do your drafts, because you can get guys like Julio Jones and Chris Godwin for cheap, and get them like in the later rounds while they're under the radar right now. But there's $10 million worth of prizes in Underdog Fantasy. All you have to do is, when you sign up, use the promo code Pewter, and you're going to get a bonus for signing up. So that promo code is Pewter. And Underdog Fantasy, they let you set it and forget it. That's the point I'm trying to make is I pick the players in its best ball, which means if you draft 3 quarterbacks, let's say you draft Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers, and let's say you're stuck drafting Baker Mayfield as your 3rd quarterback. Okay, whatever. But whoever has the best stats that week, you get the points. So if Brady has the bye week and Aaron Rodgers lights it up, then boom, then you get Aaron Rodgers points that week. So that's how it works. It's a great, fun way to do the drafting, and you can set your lineup and forget it whenever you draft. So head over to Underdog Fantasy and play Best Ball Mania 3 for your chance of winning up to $10 million in prizes on Underdog Fantasy. And be sure to use the promo code Pewter when you sign up.
And there's no bigger underdog than an undrafted free agent, right? I mean, he's got an uphill battle to make the team. And there's no better underdog story than the guy who's going to be your new starting kicker in 2022 when Jose Borregales. As expected, kickers are going to be probably switching off each and every single day. Jose Borregales had his shot yesterday after Ryan Succop had his yesterday. Succop was perfect yesterday. He went 6 for 6. Didn't kick anything from beyond 39 yards, something we've come to expect from Succop. But my man Jose Borregales is out there. He went 7 for 8, showing off his range today, nailing kicks from behind 50, 51, 49 yards. Telling you, he can show consistency. This is going to be your new kicker, and he can also handle kickoff duties too, which Jake Camardo will probably handle. But in a pinch, Jose B, he's your man. And
listen, JC, you called this last year. I mean, this is nothing new, right? I mean, I've got my guy who, of course, is Blaine Gabbert, the most handsome quarterback on the roster. There's your obligatory Blaine Gabbert picture for the day, folks. Now, waiting for that.
Yeah. I sent you a quality pic of him. Like the flow was good, the sweat was there. Like I sent you a quality.
I'm saving it when he has a really, really good day in practice. He threw an interception to Cam Gill today. Cam Gill dropping in coverage, picking off Blaine Gabbert. So today was not the day for that picture, Casey. I appreciate that. It was a good-looking picture. But JC, you've been all over Jose Borregales. This is a player, Lou Groza Award winner from Miami, was in camp last year. They put him on the practice squad. They protected him every single week because they wanted him to develop behind the scenes to be that eventual successor probably to Ryan Succop. Is it going to happen this year? I think we're going to find out in August. But I can definitely second your emotion that you have been high on Jose, not just this camp, but last camp as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a couple of them. Nick Leverett was another sneaky guy who I said it now. Guys, stop with the Johnson.
Who was the safety last year that you had the crush on?
Oh, Javon Hagan.
Yeah.
R.I.P.
Javon Hagan.
He just didn't have the work ethic. He's now retired out of football after a year with the Cardinals on the practice squad. What can you do?
What were you about to say?
I said stop with the John slander in the chat, people, too. John's out there saving the world one child at a time.
That's true. He is. Yes. He's doing good work.
And it's been months.
Real
I think we'd be remiss not to touch on the rookies. I see a couple questions about Cade Otton and Rachaad White. And somebody, I'm falling short to remember who today mentioned the fact that Cade Otton looked good in his routes and was making some great catches for day 2. So for everyone asking about Cade Otton, he looks like he's on the right trajectory to make some magic on this team. Rachaad White is crushing it.
He's looking
I underestimated the kid. I'm not going to lie. Yeah,
he's not perfect. Saw him. He dropped a pass today, but he's getting some rave reviews. The coaches are very happy with him. Mm-hmm. And folks, if you're just joining the Pewter Report podcast, well, where have you been? I mean, I guess you're working. That's okay. We're working too. But we talked about Ryan Jensen and Robert Hainsey and Julio Jones at the beginning of the show. So if you're just joining us now, make sure that you go back and watch it from start to finish. And we've got another Pewter Report podcast coming out tomorrow. Why? Because it's Friday, and you deserve another Pewter Report podcast. Folks, we just had the best episode we've ever done. The best podcast episode we've ever done just occurred. The good news is we're going to gun to see if we can replace it as the best tomorrow with Friday's episode. We think that's going to actually be the best one. So make sure you tune in Friday, July 29th at 4 p.m. I think, JC, you're going to be on with Bailey tomorrow.
Yes, sir. Well, we'll be holding it down, breaking down day 3 of training camp. Excited to get out there again tomorrow. Excited to get back here, talk to you Pewter people, and just run down, answer all your questions, because I know you got questions. Everyone's got questions. They want to. If we could sit here for 3 hours and break down every player in the roster, we would, but then we wouldn't be able to get the great content out for you guys. So
that's true. Yeah. And next week,
people at training camp. Just shout out to the Pewter fans at training camp. We are starting to see a lot of you guys. So, if you get a chance to say hi. But we appreciate it.
Yeah, we chatted with a couple of fans today. Mark Fisher was in the house, and it's always great to see people from the chat say hello to us. So if you're out at camp, call us out by name, because we're kind of busy watching the team. But if I hear Scott or JC or Casey, we'll turn around and and shake your hand and chat with you and say hello. We're always happy to do that. Next week, take a look at the schedule, folks. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. No chat on Thursday because there's no practice. So we're going to be covering the Buccaneers practices. Now, there is a practice on Saturday, but we've already done 4 podcasts by that time. So we'll save all of our podcast content for next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. So once again, Pewter people, thanks for showing up. We've had a blast talking Bucs football to you today. We wish it was all good news. We'll cross our fingers and see what happens with Ryan Jensen, but they're not they're holding their breath over there at One Buccaneer Place, bracing for some bad news, hoping for some good news. We shall see what's going to happen. But for JC Allen and KC Hudson, I'm Scott Reynolds saying thank you for tuning in to another edition of the Pewter Report podcast, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Out.